Hi, this is Debbie Macy Grabador, a third-year student of North Vice, taking up Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, major in Financial Management. We are assigned to report about corruption, but since it will be graded individually, so I will discuss about it, the scale of corruption, its causes, its effects, its prevention, and its recommendation on how to stop corruption. But before that, I will define first of what is corruption. Corruption is wrongdoing on the part of authority or powerful party through means that are illegitimate, immoral, or incompatible with ethical standards. Corruption often from patronage and is associated by bribery. Or in simple words, it is the dishonest behavior by those in positions of power, such as managers or government officials. We all know that corruption is one of the serious problems of our country. We are all affected by this. It has fierce impacts on economic and societal development of country. We have different scales of corruption: the petty corruption, the grand corruption, and the systemic corruption. Petty corruption pertains of small incidences of corruption, often on a local level, by people such as policemen and judges. This type of corruption affects the poor most directly. Petty corruption is done in a low level. It includes extortion of money, money which is paid to the police or any other person to avoid the penalties and fines. Grand corruption, in which corruption takes place in higher levels of government and involves large amount of money mismanagement. For example, diverting funds from a social program for personal use. It also violates human rights and it deserves punishment and adjudication. Why? Because this scale of corruption is stealing from the public budgets used to build schools and hospitals to constructing dangerous facilities as the result of underfunding. And lastly is the systemic corruption or endemic corruption. Is a corruption which is primarily due to the weaknesses of an organization or process. It can be contrasted by individual officials or agents who act corruptly within the system. Systemic corruption is an endemic corruption which behavior of officials or head in governments, bureaucracies, are corrupt in the procedures and criteria for personal advancement in the government bureaucracy. Here are the causes of corruption. We have lack of effective management and organization, lack of economical stability, lack of effective leadership, lack of values, lack of patriotism, lack of good education, lack of employment, and lack of satisfaction. And these causes of corruption will make us suffer. And it also leads to its effects in our society and economy. The effects or impacts of corruption makes the poor poorer and the rich richer. Poor people suffer the harmful effects of corruption most grievously because they do not have the power. It also erodes or destroys the political legitimacy because they use their power and position in a society to corrupt. There will be a reduction in foreign direct investment or FDI. FDI is a key ingredient for a successful economic growth and development in developing countries. But because of corruption, there will be a reduction. There is inferior infrastructure or poor maintenance. Of course, there will be poor quality services or infrastructure because of corruption, in which they steal from public budgets for personal use, and it would lead to construct a dangerous facilities. And because of corruption, it also reduces investment and economic growth. So I have here a current issue in the Philippines which shows corruption, and this is the pastillas. Pastillas controversy in the Philippines is an example of corruption in which the Bureau of Immigration allowed the Chinese nationals to enter the country without background checks in exchange of money. It is called pastillas
because the money is hidden in rolled bond paper like the wrapping for milk candy. The bribe is up to 40 billion pesos.
In order to stop corruption, here are the cures for corruption. We have public interest, honest bureaucrats, honest media, autonomous investigating agencies, effective and regular vigilance, and transparency in the system. For me, in order to remove corruption, there must be a loss-fixing accountability and encouraging transparency. And also, good governance is the key. The media also play an important functions, not just exposing corruption, but also sustaining an open and transparent flow of information that eliminates corruption. Why is exposing and preventing corruption is important? It is because if corruption is unchecked and undetected in the public sector, it can cause serious damage, which are the effects of corruption that I have discussed earlier.
This mapping of variables will show the causes and effects of corruption and its solutions. So we have lack of values, and if there is lack of values, there is also lack of patriotism or not concerned in the country. And if there is lack of patriotism, there is lack of effective management and organization. And of course, if there is lack of effective management and organization, there is lack of economical stability. And if the economy is not stable, there is lack of employment. That will result to reduces investment and economic growth. And its effect is the lack of facilities and poor maintenance of public infrastructure. And we have also one causes of corruption, which is the unsatisfied. And if there is unsatisfaction, there will be a bribery type of corruption. And it makes the poor poorer and the rich richer. So the solutions to this problem that must be implemented to prevent stop corruption are there must be transparency in the system and media, and also loss-fixing accountability. And this reinforcing loop shows the cycle of the corruption. First, the lack of values, and then lack of patriotism, and then lack of effective management and organization will lead to lack of economical stability, lack of employment, and it reduces investment and economic growth that result to the act of bribery. And if there is bribery, it shows the lack of good education. Balancing loop shows on how to prevent and eliminate corruption. Lack of values will lead to lack of effective management and organization, and it reduces investment and economic growth. To prevent a reduction of investment and economic growth, there must be good governance and transparency in system and media. And also, there must be a need of respect and love to stop corruption.
For more understanding and further explanation, here is a video about how corruption affects us.
What is corruption? To us, it's simple. Corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. Whether it's paying a bribe to access public services like healthcare and education, or whether it's money laundering schemes involving billions in dirty money, what's important is how corruption affects you, and the cost of corruption can be enormous. Corruption can cost you your livelihood, your rights, your health, your freedom, and sometimes even your life. It erodes democratic freedoms, rule of law, and trust in government. Corruption also reduces your chances for a healthy environment and sustainable future. When money meant to tackle the climate crisis is stolen, that's your future being taken from you. When money meant to improve your local schools, hospitals, and roads is snatched away, opportunities for a better life are lost with it. When money meant to improve your government and the rule of law is stolen, so too is your chance for a more just and secure future. Every year we lose billions to corruption, billions that were supposed to improve all of our lives, our opportunities, and our communities. At times, the scale of the problem can seem overwhelming, but corruption is not inevitable. Together, we have the power to stop corruption. Join us.
And that's all for my discussion about corruption. And thank you for giving your time for listening. And I hope that you will not practice corruption. We will stop corruption.